morning, sports fans. I am Tommy Scoville, and you are on the Love Boat. This is the time when we get together in the morning and we talk about the assignment that I have given everybody. Jane Aldrich, good to see you. Jane, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for stepping up to the plate and leaving comments on so many videos. And the comments, it's not like you're just saying, hey, thanks. You leave some really heartfelt, beautiful stuff. And I know that other people see it as well. I think it's an absolutely beautiful thing. I can't thank you enough. I mean that. It's from the bottom of my heart. And I know it takes time. So I really appreciate that. It is bringing back the flavor that made the original Lifeboat what it was, which was a pretty damn cool channel. So this is an important one, folks. This is the nuts and bolts of what we're doing here, right? I gave you a little bit of structure. I talked a little bit about this whole journaling thing. Today, we're talking about what this is all about. If by some chance you missed this one, you got kicked right in the stomach, because this one here is this is the real deal, Holyfield. This is where we're going to talk about why what we're doing is so damn important. It's not a lot of messages. It's every video. You are more of a blessing than you'll ever know, Jane. I beg to differ. I think you're the one being kind. Gemini Girl 65. Good morning. How are you? Welcome. Aunt KK. Good to see you, Karen Pooley. This is going to be a good one, folks. Honestly, I can't take credit for the next however long this takes, because the show that I'm about to do is a ripoff of my mentor. When I committed to him, I asked you guys to spend 30 days journaling in earnest, right? Brock Bandy, you stud. Good to have you here, my brother. Brock Bandy, another one who every day just makes life a little bit better. I mean that. Archie's mom, welcome. So when Q said to me, I want you to commit to journaling, I committed to do it for a year. But after the first month, I had a pretty good idea that this was going to change my life. Well, I caught a live. Jay Rambo, good to see you, man. Well, third job, that sounds tough. I'm sorry that's a full schedule right there. But I'm glad that you were able to catch one. Jay Rambo, let me bring you up to speed. We have been getting people to commit to journaling for 30 days. And for the last 2 days, first I gave an assignment where you just are going to talk to your journal. And you're going to say, hey, you know what? I'm doing this. This is kind of what I'm hoping that this will do, and this will transform me, yada, yada. And then we talked about the morning versus the night kind of thing. And I talked about some of the things that you do in the morning when you journal. You write stuff down, what you're going to be doing throughout the day. Now we are going to talk about why we're here, right? The real nuts and bolts of this, right? What you need to do. Hey, Rocket Queen. Oh, yeah. What I need you to do and what you're going to want to do going forward, right? Now we're going to tell that journal what we want to change about ourselves, right? Because that's really what a journal does. Caroline from Scotland, good to see you. Glad that you caught a live. I'm happy that you are here. I mean that. We're now going to talk to this journal about what needs to change in our life, right? Johnny and I are journaling every morning. We've been doing it for a very long time, right? But what we've done is committed to making some changes in our lives, and they're personal, right? And yours will probably will be as well. But I'm going to go over some that always pop up as some of the big ones, right? And we'll lead off with one that more people say every single time I do this. Every single time I kind of force somebody a little bit into the journaling process. Very often, it's around the first day of January, right? It's a big one. September is also a big one. Back to school, we get that attitude. We always have. And as we're going back to school, it's much easier to get people to commit to something at that time of the year. We're just sort of used to it. Jenny D, glad that you're here. So, weight loss. It's one of the biggest things that people talk about every time I bring up journaling. Every time we talk about it, people say, I really wish I could transform my body. And I'll tell you something. It makes a lot of sense if you think about it. This is one of the biggest addictions in the world, right? Especially in the United States of America. We are the first society, the USA, where more people will die because they eat too much than people who would die from starvation. Honestly, there's a sick part of me that finds that something proud in that, right? Honestly, from the dawn of man, people have worried about starvation. In the USA, by 2032, the number of people who are going to be morbidly obese is going to dwarf the number of people who are not. Now, a lot of that, I am enjoying my new home, Caroline. Thank you so much. You know what? Moving can be stressful. I am really happy that that this is where I moved. It takes a lot of the stress off. Just the environment really makes things beautiful. And you get that honeymoon anywhere you move to. Well, when you move to a different country, that honeymoon is amazing because you spend all of your time concentrating on what makes the country you moved fantastic. I'm sure after the 90 days, you start to say, oh, look at what I'm missing. But right now, I don't feel that. So it's been a blessing. Thank you. Food addiction is one of the most insidious, right, of all habits that people try to break for obvious reasons, right? Like I will say alcoholism is really difficult because you turn on a television set and you're going to see Budweiser ads. You're going to see they advertise your drug on the television. And that's a brutal thing. It really is. It's a very, very difficult thing. Hello, Sandra Harris. Welcome from London. Sweltering over there. I'm sorry to hear that. Hey, Roberta. Today is a very cool day here in Ecuador. Beautiful weather. You can open the door kind of weather. It's always 75, but it's less humidity, less sun, and the wind's blowing. So, but it's beautiful today. I'm glad that you're here, Sandra. Food addiction is brutal because you can't quit eating, right? That's an issue. I promise you that's an issue. If you quit eating, you tend to die. It's one of those things that you got to do, right? So how do you balance that? That's the challenge, right? And it's a $1 billion a year industry of people that come on and talk to you about how you can drop weight. Now, if weight's not your issue, use your imagination, right? Think about what your issue is. But because so many people lead off with this, and because it is one of those things that destroys people's spirit, like nothing else. People who are gambling addicts, they know that their habit is terrible, right? People who suffer with addiction to food addiction. It's so much more insidious because it destroys self-esteem in a way that no other addiction does. And the number of emails I get from people on a daily basis that say, I hate myself, and it's such a hard thing to hear. I hate myself because of what I've turned into. Give yourself a little bit of grace, right? We live in a world now where scientists do everything they can to ensure that the food that you eat will make you hungry and try to drive you back to eat more within 2 hours. No joke. This is a science. Susan Miller, there you are. I'm live here too, 1337 here in Portugal. So glad to catch you live. I've missed your lives. Well, we've missed you. Another fellow expat. Great to have you here. Hey, Benny, good morning to you. So this is tough because engineers and scientists, people who make perfumes, right, are engineering food to be addictive. How bad is that, right? Shouldn't be legal, don't you think? And if you ever get someplace where it's not legal, and you begin to eat, you find really weird things happen. Like you don't get hungry 2 hours after you eat. There's no crash. And because of how they engineer the food doesn't just deliver nutrition. Hey, Taylor Miller, it's not something that people do just to survive. Because of how it's engineered, we use it as a drug. We absolutely do. People talk about comfort food, right? It's a lovely expression. Right? And in the 50s, comfort food meant something completely different than it does today. For always, forever, for life. Good morning. Thank you. I feel healthy and happy. What a nice thing to say. Hello, Lindy. Welcome. So how do you fight this if they're literally turning your food into a drug? If they're literally doing things that are causing you, right, to double back onto food, then what? Well, first thing is to realize that this is happening. Tara Jackson, hey, Lisa Trimble. Good to see you, Lisa. You're blushing. Hubby's making me my espresso. Not sure if he heard you call me out. Well, we'll just keep doing it until he does. How's that? We'll really get you to blush. We'll leave you up there for a minute. Guaranteed to have your husband see. So true. My kids are starving after having a McDonald's an hour ago. No question. McDonald's is on the forefront of that science, right? True story. And their food is not just engineered to make you hungry shortly thereafter, but it also tries to get you to hunger for the exact same food, just like potato chips, just like any of those things. And when we begin to use food as a coping mechanism, then we really have got problems. They're even coating fruit and vegetables with chemicals to stop it looking rotten. That's a fact. It's a fact. We also have seeds made by a company called Monsanto. I'm 10 minutes in, but saying that word will demonetize this channel. No, I mean this video, no lie. Jay Rambo, how are you? Monsanto makes a seed that every farmer in the United States has to buy. You can't buy your seeds from anybody but Monsanto. This is a fact. I'm not making this up. You can research it. And they have figured out a way to put nicotinoids, took me a while to get that down, to pronounce that correctly, nicotinoids, nicotine, right? Nicotinoids are nicotine. Nicotine is a poison, for real. The KGB was fond of killing people with nicotine because everybody smoked, right? So if you did an autopsy, nicotine was going to be found in the body. They weren't probably going to test for the levels of it, but nicotine will kill you. The people that make vapes have to get special licenses, vape juices, because they have a bottle of poison. Yeah, nicotine in all foods. Genetically modified organisms, GMOs, they are putting nicotinoids inside the seed. Now, here's the thought. If you can grow a plant, right, that nothing in nature will attack, insects won't eat it, birds won't eat it, the crop is going to reach its full size and its full potential because nothing in nature will eat it. Does that sound healthy to you? Well, it's not. By the way, Roundup is a form of nicotine. Did you know this? Roundup is a nicotinoid. So they're putting Roundup into the seeds that are going to grow the food that you're going to feed you and your kids with. And this is having an effect on people that is causing obesity in ways that we've never dealt with before. Now, can you opt out of that? Well, if you're filthy rich, right? If you're absolutely filthy rich, there are stores that you can go to where you're going to buy all non-GMO stuff. But it's really a difficult thing to do. So you have to be aware of what they're doing to you, right? You have to be aware of what they're doing to you. Awareness is going to be king in this battle. I tried to stop smoking by vaping. After 4 days, my breathing was worse than it ever was before. Archie's mama, you're the first person I've ever heard say that. I'm not kidding. Now, I'd be curious. Send me an email because I'd like to ask you some questions, and I don't want to put you on the spot and do this for the entire show. But I would really love to talk to you because normally lighting something on fire and breathing it into your lungs is much easier on the body. Vaping is versus lighting something on fire. However, there are certain flavors that cause something called popcorn lung. And if you avoid those, it's a whole lot easier. Eggplant is the second behind tobacco in nicotine content, followed by potatoes and then tomatoes. That's a fact. And companies got around the Food and Drug Administration because like ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, we have a whole bunch of laws in North America that govern tobacco. They don't govern nicotine. It's a completely different thing. So a lot of vape companies would get their nicotine from eggplant or from tomatoes or from potatoes, as opposed to getting it from the tobacco leaf. And this got them to skirt around an awful lot of laws. I showed him my comments and explained. He's laughing, and David is saying, hello, David, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you. Lindy says, nothing is safe to eat. Well, knowing that is a big deal, right? We have planted our own fruit and vegetables in raised beds to try to avoid all the chemicals. No, it depends on where you're getting your seeds from, Jay Rambo. You're not forced the same way that commercial farmers are to get your seeds from Monsanto. You can acquire seeds for growing at home, although they're trying to stomp that out too. This is why, I'm trying to remember the country, it might be Sweden, that they are creating a seed bank, right? The largest in the world to protect food in the future. It's a fascinating little study that you can do. If you look up, pick any vegetable. I did it with carrots, not sure why.
Norway.
What's that? Norway, thank you.
Doomsday Vault.
The Doomsday Vault. All the seeds that you could put, protected seeds, not BS seeds. I did this with a carrot, and I looked at I picked my brother because he's older than me, and I went with the year that my brother was born, 1966, and looked at what a carrot had in it in 1966 in terms of how much vitamin A, how much vitamin B, like all of that stuff. What nutritional value did a carrot have in 1966 and compared it to a carrot in 2025? And if you just take them side by side, don't look at just read the two, you would go, these are nothing to do with one another. It can't be the same vegetable. It's impossible. Well, yeah, they're the same color. In fact, they're more orange than they've ever been, right? Very, very odd thing. If you go to a country that doesn't have additives, we bought blueberry juice, right? It's just squeezed blueberry, and there's nothing else in it. They don't add a damn thing, right? It's just nectar from the fruit. And the first time I poured it in a glass for Johnny Scoville, he went, man, look at the color of that, right? Brock Bandy says we get our seeds from the Amish. Well played. Mittens 1970. I'm glad to see you here. Barbara Wake, good to see you. This is what we drink, right? Pulp is the name of the brand. Contains antioxidants and no preservatives of any kind. When you put this, no, you're good. When you put that into a glass, I'm an American. I'm a North American. I expected it to be blue, right? It's blueberry. Well, in the United States, they make sure it's blue, right? They make sure it's blue. They add colors to it so that we don't need that stuff. We don't, right? But everything is engineered to look perfect, to taste a specific way, and to make you hungry. You're fighting a battle that's so different than the one that your grandparents would have fought, right? If you tried to go on a diet in 1966, it was a completely different ball game than 2025. Does not mean you can't win this battle, right? But it's way more akin to kicking heroin than it is just going on a diet. Did you know carrots originally were purple? Now there are purple carrot seeds back on the market. I love that. I did not know that. I did not know that. I'm not surprised. We have really genetically screwed around with an awful lot of the food that we eat. So my challenge to everybody would be this, right? A little harm reduction. There are things that you can do, right, to avoid some of this. And some of them are so unbelievably simple. Now, I can show you a picture of me where I look a lot like Steven Seagal. My hair was in a ponytail at the time because I didn't want to look like a skinhead in prison, right? My mentor was black. And when I first met him, he said to me, organic, yeah, if they're safer to be sure. If you can do organic, but organic is very expensive. It is not the same price. Like I said, if you got the money to, it's a great possibility. But before anybody goes, well, the odds are so stacked against me, there's nothing I can do. I grew out my hair into a ponytail because my mentor was a black dude. And when I first met him, he said to me, are you one of the racist guys? And I said, no, why would you ask me that? And he said, because you're bald. And it bummed me out. So I just let my hair grow, and I ended up pulling it in a ponytail, and I didn't shave it until the day I left prison to go home. And it was a tough ponytail because when your hair gets as thin as mine was, you have to arrange the 65 hairs that you have on the top of your head perfectly in line, right? Or you just look like the worst thing you've ever seen. But I would do that. I would perfectly arrange them every morning using a mirror and all that. And I have a picture of me at 287 pounds with a ponytail. And
it is Steven Seagal.
It is Steven Seagal, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I get big like that, my fingers get bigger, my wrists get bigger. I don't develop a belly. My whole body just gets bigger. My ankles get bigger, right? I just get huge, and not a good look. I promise you, not a very good look. And if you show up for tonight's show, I will have the picture queued up so you guys can see it. It's not handsome. I promise you, it's really not handsome. But how do you lose weight in prison? Because the food we're getting in there is not just genetically modified, it's also garbage. So we would get 3 or 4 times a week, we would get broccoli. You say to yourself, how could broccoli not be good for you? Right? Seriously, how could broccoli? Well, first of all, I didn't see the tree part, like the cool head of a broccoli, for the entire time I was incarcerated. All they serve is the bottom part of it, the part that every company throws out because they're not going to sell it to you. So everything is just, and the chicken that we would get, only one side. We would get a leg, like the full leg, not just the drumstick, but the part that goes into the breast kind of a thing, about this big. We would get one every single Thursday for the entire time I was in federal prison. The schedule of menu never changes. Wednesday, you're going to eat a hamburger. Thursday, you're going to get chicken on the bone, huge. And after working in the kitchen for a long time, I looked and thought, there's only one side of the bird. Do they sell the other leg to a different prison? We only get one side. And the guy that I worked for who ran the kitchen said, no, the other side is atrophied viciously from the injections that they give it, full of steroids and full of hormones and full of antibiotics and all of the things that they shoot into the birds. And he said, these were cluckers, not roasters. That meant nothing to me. But apparently birds are raised 2 different ways. One, to just lay eggs. And then they do, no, Taylor, I'm not going to judge you for that. Adderall is an unbelievable weight loss product. Unfortunately, there's a lot of other side effects to it that are not great. But speed in general cuts down on people's ability to eat. Makes it very, very difficult to be hungry when they speed up your body that much. So a lot of people lose weight when they started doing Adderall. No judgment. We don't judge anybody here for stuff like that, I promise. I'm really overweight at the moment and finding it hard to eat. Oh, underweight and finding it hard to eat. See that? I'm so accustomed that I just took that for granted. Well, you know what, Caroline, shoot me an email. That's a better problem than the other way around. It's terrible the way they treat chickens. Rocket Queen, you wouldn't believe it. These chickens are laying about 20 times more eggs than they normally would have. However, back to prison, it's poison, and this is what they're feeding us. And my other option is starvation, and I managed to get 287 pounds eating like that. How? Well, I bought more food out of the backside of the kitchen, right? I would buy stuff and bring it home. I also would shop at the commissary, but I would shop for what the fellas call Zuzus and Wham Whams, and that is just sugar, right? It's nutty bars. It's, like ding dongs, ho-hos, things like that. And I would crush them. I would sit down at night and eat a box of nutty bars. And I wasn't doing this for any other reason other than the fact that I didn't have dope anymore, right? I had cut that out of my life completely. So what I was left with was something that I could do every time I was feeling crappy about myself. I would eat. And it became just a new form of addiction, nothing different. If you see a little green sticker with an appeal on the fruit and veggies, it's been sprayed with chemicals. Not surprised. Not surprised. And even if it's not sprayed with chemicals, it was grown from a seed that is nothing but surrounded, literally encapsulated by a nicotinoid. So basically like Roundup in a little capsule around the outside of your seed. So I was crushing food to make myself feel better. And it's a vicious cycle, right? It's a vicious cycle. And then one day, a friend of mine who occasionally shows up in the chat, his name, if you see him in here, is Diesel Therapy. And one day, I had just come back from rec, and one of our friends went down at rec. You could weigh yourself. It's the only place you could do it in prison. And the guy came back and said, man, I was 35 pounds heavier than I thought I was. He's like, I am so bummed out. And I said, yeah, what did you weigh? And he told me, and I go, the last time I weighed myself, I was 225 pounds, but I'm sure I'm 15 or 20 pounds over that. This is how literally like out there I was. And my friend goes, you think you weigh 240? I said, yeah. And my friend Diesel Therapy said, 240? He's like, so you're what, 20 or 30 pounds difference between me and you? I said, are you kidding? You're 100 pounds heavier than I am. And it started this entire debate. And we went down for a bet and a weigh-in. And I weighed in at 287 pounds and almost had a heart attack. The only reason that it didn't really kill me was because my friend Diesel Therapy weighed 330. He was considerably heavier than I was. And might have even been 340. But he said, I'm going to quit eating. I am going to absolutely change my life. And I've told the story a million times, but I walked by his cell and he was doing this with his arms around in circles, right? And I was walking, it was raining. So we were walking the top tier. It's 100 yards from start to finish. You just walk it as fast as you can. Bunch of guys walking in circles. And each time we would go by his cell, the guys that I was walking with would mock him. Not to his face, but they'd go, oh, check it out. It's a fat Jane Fonda. And everybody would laugh or whatever. And I didn't think the guy had a chance of losing weight. When he left prison, he weighed 180 pounds and had a lot of extra skin, but he set a goal and he hit it because every day he exercised. And it started with just being able to do this. He also changed how he ate. He changed when he ate, right? We can do things to lose weight, even if you're being poisoned, and even if the food that they give you is engineered to make you get more hungry. You can still win that battle because I did it with meat that said on the package, not fit for human consumption. USDA grade D. You know, you say USDA grade A meat, whatever. We got D. C gets sold to Alpo. D gets sold to the federal prison system. And that's what we ate. Garbage. Garbage. They gave you bread with every single meal because they had to get you to 2,600 calories a day. So they were taking into account the packets of margarine they were putting on the tray. Every single thing. If you ate everything, that's what you got in the diet was 2,600 calories. But I found out that on the store, they sold mackerel. Now, they sold mackerel in oil. They also sold it in water. In water, it smelled so bad that none of the people I lived with would allow me to prepare it in the cell. Couldn't blame them. Made it smell like low tide. Really nasty. The other mackerel, I didn't love it. first time I tasted it. But I knew that each one of those little packets had 30 grams of protein in it. And a wild thing happens when you give your body enough protein. You don't get hungry. I promise you, you don't get hungry. I believe wholeheartedly, 2,600 is a lot if you're not moving around much. Well, and also we're crushing about another 1,500 calories to 2,000 calories a day in really bad food, right? Things like nutty bars, Zuzus and Wham Whams, the guys call it, right? You're either buying regular food or you're buying Zuzus and Wham Whams. And the base for everything that you cook in prison is soup, ramen. It's ramen that you add stuff to. So when I first started trying to lose weight, I would take 2 ramen soups and I would put a couple of packets of mackerel into it. And I would try to make this into something that was tasty. And a guy said to me, "You're not going to lose any weight doing that, bro." I said, "Of course I am." He said, "No, you're not." I said, "Look, there's 185 calories in a soup." He said, "Is that right?" I said, "Look, man, it says it on the package." He said, "Read the package again." I read it. I showed it to him. I said, "See that? That's what's in it." He goes, "Would you like to put a money bet on it?" I said, "I'm reading it." Sometimes you look for things, right? Instead of reading or whatever. It said 2 servings per package. So it was double what I thought it was. So I'm starting my diet meal, right, with 700 calories before I added the healthy fish and all of that. Hey, Marie, so I pumped the brakes. And now I started eating the mackerel out of the package. A little bit harder to get down, I promise you. But I stopped putting stuff into my body that was just in there for filler. Blammy, good to see you, Sharon. I stopped putting stuff in that was just filler. And then I decided to become active. And at first it was just walking. And I would walk for about 20 minutes a day. And I know people, they send me emails and they say, "I live in a city that's too dangerous to walk in." I lived in a cell. Right? I lived in a cell you couldn't leave. I was in a slammed unit when I first started trying to lose weight. I was in a lockdown unit, 23-1. You got out for an hour a day, 5 days a week. So I would walk from the corner of my cell, turn around and come back, right? And I lost a grip of weight doing that. Just walking. And it's low impact, it doesn't hurt you. And then I started doing the little Jane Fonda stuff. And at first I was just doing circles with my arms, and I would do 20 forward and I would do 20 backwards, and then I would wait. And then I would do another set, 20 forward, 20 backwards. Now you do 150 forward, 150 back. Wait and do it again. Do 4 sets. Johnny Scoville does it with me. He can't wash his head. He can't get his hands above his head right now. I had to come up with exercises that I could do because I had a very small place. I didn't have weights. I didn't have any of that. I would walk for 10 minutes with my hands above my head like this. Just my hands above my head. And people would go, "Man, you know, I don't think I could do that." I said, "Well, I had my hands cuffed above my head for hours, right? And I kept them up there because I didn't want, eventually you can't do it. But the things that I did, it was just active. Tommy, are there foods you don't eat now because they remind you of prison food? You betcha. You betcha. There are things I will never eat again, ever, because of prison. I would eat a ramen noodle if there was no other option on earth, but there's no chance I'm eating a ramen noodle. Never. I wouldn't eat a Buddy Bar again for any reason. I wouldn't do it at $5 a bar. I would not do it.
How about shebang chips though?
Oh, I'll eat the whole shebang. Yeah, the whole shebang is incredible. Fortunately, Mac Jack and octopus fried is good. Mac Jack. We say Jack Mac. That was the stuff in water. There was mackerel and there was Jack Mac. Jack Mac had more protein than anything on earth, but the smell, you could smell it from the next prison down, much less the next cell, right? It was ridiculous. But I became someone that, you know how people count carbs? I counted grams of protein. And I was trying to make my body hard, right? Because it was soft, viciously soft from what I had done to it, years of neglect. So I read a bunch of books, right? And I started out, honey buns. We'll never eat another honey bun as long as I live. Tara Jackson, good call. Monster honey buns. We'd get them this big, right? They were 850 calories, right? One honey bun, 850 calories. I would take it, put peanut butter all over the top of it, take a Hershey bar, drop it on top, Hershey with almonds, put it in the microwave it, and then press it in half like this with a nutty bar in the middle of it. We used to call it the calorie taco. It was awful. And I used to crush one of those every night right before I went to sleep. Right? Genius. But I decided after reading a book that I was going to start off by doing 1 gram of protein for every pound I had in my body, which at the time that I did this was closer to 250 by that point. So I was doing 250 grams of protein a day. You don't get hungry. You don't. Protein does amazing things in your body. Now, I'm no scientist, but I will tell you this. Hey, Shane, I believe that we eat in search of protein. That's my belief, right? Nothing to back it up, just my belief. I believe we search for protein in what we eat, and there isn't any there. What we get is carbs, right? Tons of them. So now I'm in a place where seafood is as fresh as you're ever going to get it, right? We watch the boats go out every morning to go get the stuff that we're eating at lunch. And when we first got here, we ate once a day. And we didn't do it because we couldn't afford it. We didn't do it because we were too lazy to walk out. But we would eat 1 meal and not get hungry. I mean, just period, not get hungry. And it got to a point where we started to force ourselves to eat other things because you need some roughage in your diet, right? Some things that you've never heard of, honey buns. You should thank God. Jay Rambo says, my husband is on the carnivore diet. It's one of the only diets that has worked for him. I question all of the fat and heart disease. You know, there's good fat, there's bad fat. And I don't understand a lot of the stuff. I really don't. What I can tell you is this, that once I began to give my body the amount of protein that it was jonesing for, I had a very easy time transforming the weight in my body. I dropped weight, and the stuff that I held on there got hard. I started to really, and the next thing you know, craziest thing I'd ever seen, right? Because at this point I was about 44 years old. And for the first time that I could remember in my life, I saw these things on my stomach that I had never seen before, right? Abs. And people used to say to me, if you want to see abs, you need to do 5,000 crunches 3 times a week, right? All of these people that have all of these workouts, I got news for you. If you can see a guy's abs, it's because of his diet. It's not because of his workout. I promise you, it's because of his diet. Ask anybody who's got abs, they'll tell you it's diet, it's not workout. I'm happy your family moved there and y'all are very happy. I'm sure Squirrel is happy too. Squirrel and Johnny's cat, Katie Purry, they've got an unobstructed run of about 120 feet from one side of the apartment to the other. Just a slight chicane going from one balcony sort of to the other. And they chase each other at top speed and occasionally don't quite make the chicane, especially Katie. Squirrel always does. Katie occasionally will not quite make it and slide into the wall. Doesn't hurt herself, but it's always really funny to watch. They're very happy cats. But I promise you, people, I promise you, if you start upping the protein, things are going to change. If you start taking 20 minutes a day to walk, and you know something? If you're happy with the size that you are, and you're happy with the shape of your body, then don't do anything, right? For real. But funny thing about this place, right? People here all seem to love their bodies. You don't see anybody, like you see people on the beach wearing thongs that you would not see probably go out without like a muumuu, right? Something like that in North America. You see people that by North American standards, you might say would be 70 to 100 pounds overweight, but they walk around as if they're a supermodel and they had just been photographed for Victoria's Secret. And the difference is they're healthy. They might be carrying a little extra weight or whatever, but I guarantee you they could walk from here to Boston, right? There's a lot of walking that goes around. And you just notice that legs are more muscular because everybody does a lot of walking. There's a lot less people that own cars here than in other places. That doesn't mean that the streets are not full of cars, but most people take cabs. Salinas is very, very small. Cab rides are really inexpensive, and most people do not. Yes, that's a great way to put it. A beautiful confidence. And at first it jumps out at you. You think to yourself, wow, look at that person. You know what I mean? They are so comfortable with their body. And pretty soon you realize that everybody is comfortable with their body. But I've not seen people unhealthy, right? You can carry 30 pounds more than people say your weight should be. By the way, BMI, you familiar with this? Your body mass index? I went to a health fair in prison where people came in and do all of these deals, and I did my BMI index and all of that. And because I was 6'2", right? And all of the different things and age and stuff they took into account, they said to me, you're way, way overweight according to your body mass index. I had a 6-pack abs that looked like the dude from the cover of Men's Journal. But according to their body mass index, I was 30 or 40 pounds overweight. They wanted me at like 175 pounds for my height and age. I'll be dead 6 weeks and I won't weigh 175 pounds. I think if you cremated me, I'd be close to 170. I'm big. I have big shoulders. I'm wide. You know what I mean? I'm just, look at my hands, right? We're just built a little bit different. You know, I have huge ankles. I've got massive feet. Everything on me is just a little bit bigger. Don't trust BMI. Don't trust anything but how you feel. We all know if we're not quite healthy. And the people who reach out to me and say, I hate myself because I have done so much overeating that I just hate who I've become. I hear that more than I hear people say, I feel unhealthy. Don't let society tell you what you're supposed to look like. Honestly, if you do that, and I'm not being disrespectful to the people that look one way or the other, but I dated a girl who was a model, not for a very long period of time, but I dated a girl when I was a youngster in Texas who was a model. I actually ended up in Playboy. And she used to eat Kleenex. Do you remember this? She used to eat, God bless her, but she used to eat Kleenex. And the first time I saw her doing it, I went, did you just put a tissue in your mouth? She said, yeah. I said, what are you doing? She said, it fills your stomach and there's nothing in it at all. She would eat 15 of those babies. She also smoked 2.5 packs of Marlboros a day, one right after another. And I said, you're going to get wrinkled. Do you know what that's going to do to you? She said, it kills your appetite. It absolutely kills your appetite. I thought, this is the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. It is the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. And when the magazine came out, right, she said, you want to see the spread? I said, sure. And she showed me the pictures and I thought, this isn't you, right? This doesn't look like you. Maybe the pictures were taken a long time ago or something like that. And she said, no, they shaved a couple of inches off parts of me. Shaved them. This was in the 90s. Yeah, and she didn't need any help. It was a beautiful girl. But people of the insecurities, I used to tell people back in the day, the life of Dennis, good to see you, man. I used to tell people back in the day, you walk into a nightclub in Houston, Texas, back in the day, as a guy, what's the first thing you do? You look to see who the most beautiful woman in the room is, right? It's kind of what you do. Guess what? When a woman walked in the room, she did the same thing. We were doing it for different reasons. But women compared themselves to everybody else in the room. And this girl who was a model was the most miserable human being I ever met. And she hated everything about her body. And there was nothing wrong with anything with this person's body. But we have allowed a group of people in New York, right, who probably, by the way, are not even heterosexual, to determine what is going to be beauty. That's heinous. It is. It's an injustice in a way that you can't explain. By the time a girl turns 16, the number of images that she sees on a daily basis on the side of a bus, on billboards, in magazines, right, on her phone, on ads, everywhere you look, and they're not real, right? These are digitally screwed with photos. They're not even real. They'll change skin tone colors. They'll do all of these things because that's beauty. Throw that out the window. We're not shooting for anybody's definition of beauty. Hello, Handmade Hazard. We're looking for healthy. So if you don't feel like you're healthy, right, then journaling is your best friend. And in the beginning, look, harm reduction is huge. See this stuff? I promise you, you're not drinking enough of it. I promise you, you're not drinking enough of it. And if you drink enough of this, it's very difficult to eat. It is. If you're drinking enough water, your stomach is usually full of it. And I also don't like water that's warm. That's just the thing with me. I really love cold water. Do you know what happens when you drink really cold water? Your body has to heat it, right? You ever drink a bunch of, like a pound of glass of cold water and you're instantly cold, like you want to go turn off the air conditioner? Your body is going to turn that cold water into 98.6 degrees. You know how it does that? By burning calories. Think of calories like logs you throw on a fire. Calories are the logs that we use to burn fat and other things. And you can do it simply by drinking cold water. I promise. This is absolutely the truth. Now, when I got serious about losing weight, I started to do the fasting routine. After reading a book about it in prison, I began to do fasting, because in the book I read, it said after 12 hours, right, your body begins to go into a panic mode where it doesn't think you're going to feed it. So what does it do? It goes to the storehouse of fat that we have in our body and begins to digest that to get you the energy to survive. I read that and went, you got to be kidding. So every hour after 12, I'm burning fat, and without running around in circles on a yard, without doing burpees in my cell. This seemed like a very easy way, right, to do what I was working really hard to do. And I told my cellmate that, and he said to me, yeah, good luck, bro. Right? At that 12-hour mark, you're going to be so hungry, you're going to wish you were dead. This, however, became my best friend. And every time I felt as if I was hungry, I drank about 16 ounces of really cold water. Pounded it. They gave away ice for free in prison. Big ice machines in every unit. So I would keep crap loads of it in my cell, and I would keep myself drinking tons and tons of ice cold water. For real. Intermittent fasting, correct. And I don't know why the camera is playing these focus games. I really apologize. I don't know what it's doing. Maybe it's because the backdrop isn't the right color. But anyway, I got into the intermittent fasting, and I went from doing about 14 hours to doing about 18 hours, and it just became very comfortable for me. Now, when I ate stink loads, right, of protein, stink loads of it. When you fast, are you not just thinking about food constantly? No, I was not at all. In fact, after about the first week, I didn't think about it, period. It was not something I ever thought about, because I had a routine that I did constantly. The coffee mugs is what they call them in there. It's really just, it's for drinking anything. It's double, it's like two-sided, so it either keeps things hot or keeps things cold one way or the other. How does it know? And it's 16 ounces, and I would drink 4 of those an hour, right? I wanted that much water in my body. And I'll tell you something, the water in prison was so bad, right? And I couldn't afford to buy bottled water. It would just zap the finances I had. So I would go to the ice machine, because I knew that they filtered that ice. And we had a tap on the wall, right? A tap that you pulled on. It was 190-degree water. It was so that you could make a ramen noodle just by using that. We didn't have microwaves. Convicts like to put baby oil and things in microwave and boil it and throw it on people. So they got rid of microwaves in the prison system. I have to drink cold water, and it has to be a bottle, not a cup or a glass. I prefer that out of a bottle, but I would do it in prison out of the glass because the bottle wasn't an option. But I would melt the ice to turn it into water, and then I would put ice on top of it. And I got vicious about this intermittent fasting. And it got to a point where I ate for 4 hours a day. But people would go, you had 1 meal a day? No, I ate for 4 hours a day. I literally could eat anything I wanted, but I only did it for 4 hours. And if I wanted to crush a cake, I could do it. I didn't, because the more healthy I got, the better I felt about myself. The better I felt about myself, the more serious I wanted to take this. But I did intermittent fasting, and weight dropped off me. I mean, in ways that I can't explain. I started to panic that I was going to end up with a bunch of extra skin like my friend Diesel Therapy. But I plateaued. I got to a point where after losing about 50 pounds like that, it just stopped. Didn't make any sense to me. And I got frustrated. It was a very frustrating thing. And my mentor at the time said, you know what I think you ought to do? He said, I think you should vary it up. So instead of doing the intermittent fasting 7 days a week, 365 days a year, which was what my goal was, I would eat regular 3 meals a day, and I would do it for 4 days a week, and then I would intermittent fast on the other 3 days, and breaking it up and doing it that way. Or after that started to plateau, I would do 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, and I just kept sort of keeping my body guessing, kind of a thing. But I went from 287 pounds to 195 pounds, and I was in the best shape of my life, no question, at 46 years of age, which is crazy. I was an athlete. At one point, I was a pro athlete. And I literally was in better physical shape at 46 than I had ever been at any other time in my life. And I did this in the land of poison. I did this in the land of GMO. And you know what did it more than anything? Intermittent fasting, drinking ice water, exercising, doing burpees. All of those things were fantastic. The journal is what did it. I was accountable to that book. I wrote down every single thing that I ate every single day. And it became very easy to compare that to the previous day, right? I knew exactly what I was doing because I kept vicious track of everything I was doing. How much working out I was doing, how much I was walking. It wasn't obsessive. I knew a ton of guys for whom it became wildly obsessive. Do you know the difference between us, honestly? The journal. For real. I didn't have to spend all day long thinking. I didn't have to spend all day long counting calories or doing any of those things. I wrote down what I was eating. I wrote down when I was eating it, right? And I wrote down how much working out I was doing, what my goals were. I wrote my goals every day. This may sound dumb as hell, but if you looked through my journals when I was in the process of losing weight, I wrote the goals down every day. I wanted to get to 195. That was my goal. Do you know why I picked that number, by the way? Because I was reading a book about James Bond, right? Not the movie James Bond, but the original Bond, right? Had a big scar on his face. The original Bond was way different than in the books than the movie. But he was 6'2" and he was 195 pounds. And I thought, if James Bond, right? He was the coolest guy I had ever seen. So that seemed to me to be a decent goal, right? That was the goal that I set. And I would write down, I want to get to 195 pounds. I could only weigh myself about once a month. Off topic, but third year cancer free from my mammogram. You know what? How good is that? If you are someone who prays, right? Throw a thank God up there for me with a 1. If you're not, send a positive thought, right? You just throw a 1 up there. That is so cool, man. I mean it. That is so awesome. Every once in a while, someone will say something in the chat that dwarfs whatever we're talking about in such a big way. You know what I mean? That's important. God almighty, that's important. Thank God. How great is that? Huh? Good for you. You know, 5 is the big one too, right? You get past that 5 years and you're really on the downhill run. You know, they want you to get by that 5 years. You're almost there. And just keep us informed. I love that. I really do. I love that. You have my word. I will be thanking God later for that. That's awesome. Really is. That's awesome. Dig it. Dig it. Sorry. Yeah, big hugs. I love this. This is it's a very unique group of people that meet here every day. So listen, it may not be weight for you. Maybe food is not your drug. But the reason I'm talking about this today is because more people reach out to me about this than anything else. And that makes sense. And the reason that makes sense is just what I'm talking about. First of all, it's engineered to drive you to do this. And on top of it, we have this. And they're paying crap loads of money to get this to make you eat. It's terrifying, but it's the truth. When we were little kids, we would sit down in front of the television, right? And we would watch TV and we would watch commercials. Now, the TV watches you and it decides what commercials you need to see. The commercials are watching you. It's a very different world that we live in. And this puppy right here is an enemy. It got so much more difficult for me. When I got out of prison, I had the ability to buy the right foods. I had the ability to eat good stuff. I had weight rooms I could go to, and it was 10 times more difficult. Archie's mom, have a safe day. Thank you for spending time with us. It was so much harder on the street. And that didn't make any sense to me until I started to realize that this bad boy is the enemy. When I was trying to get in shape on the street, I said, I'm not looking at that. For real, I can't surf the web. Because they engineer that thing. And I have proven this to so many people, but I will sit down and I will pick an obscure watch company, right? One that most people haven't heard of, right? And I will begin to talk about that watch company with my brother, right? At just any random company that isn't like Rolex or Patek or one of those. Even if it's not random, it's just one that we don't talk about, right? And I start bringing up that watch and a specific watch from that specific brand. Within 2 hours, I will see ads on my phone for that watch. They're listening. There's no other way around it. I mean, there's no other explanation. And I'll tell you something. There's another platform that a lot of content creators use, right? Called TikTok. I've done shows about this. The most advanced AI on Earth does not belong to the US military, right? It belongs to BitDance, which is the company that owns TikTok. And it's literally engineered to see how long it can keep you on the platform, showing you their version of whatever they want you to see. Do you know, honest to God, one of the most popular things on TikTok is kids talking about split personalities, right? There's an abbreviation for it. And you know who will help me with it? Kristen Melinda. Something identity disorder. It's 3 initials. But it has become cool. Kids come on and they talk about how they've got multiple personalities, right? And the names of these personalities. This is more DID, dissociative identity disorder, is vogue. It's cool. That's not an accident. It's not. They're pushing it down the throats of our kids on TikTok. I don't have it on my phone. No one else should. But if by some chance you do, get and read the service agreement that you click on and put the little check mark, read it. You give them permission, right, to look at everything in your phone, your pictures, your emails. Part of that, literally, is to give them permission to monitor every single thing you do on Earth. Good Lord. Really? So here's their goal, right? Their goal is to see how long you can go without giving you a dopamine hit. So let's say that kitty cats, right? Let's say that kitty cats are what makes you get a dopamine hit. Does for a lot of people. It's one of the most popular things to look at on the internet, right? Looking at kitten videos just makes you feel good. Well, they're going to give you shite for as long as they can. And then when they know you're about to bail, they're going to give you a dopamine hit. Their goal is to keep you on there about 8 to 10 hours a day if they could. 24 if they could pull it off. But it's to get you to not leave. So let's say you hang out for 2 minutes and they don't give you a dopamine hit. You turn it off. You leave it to go to YouTube or something else. The AI remembers that number. And the next time you go back, they're not going to let you wait 2 minutes. They'll give you that dopamine hit at 1 minute and 45 seconds. It is learning how to enslave you. And once it has, it will determine when you eat. I'm not joking. Because it will give you just enough to steer you in the direction to not only control what you eat, when you eat, and how you eat, right? But what you find as entertainment. Dissociative identity disorder, kids literally watch more of that than anything else. It's terrifying. If you look and talk to professionals, they'll tell you that that is something that a little less than 1% of the population, and it's actually a smaller number of the 1% of the population is afflicted with. However, now kids don't think it's an affliction. They think it's a score, and probably 17 to 18% of kids claim to have it. Horrifying numbers. I graduated from a high school that had 800 people in my 800 people in the entire school, 106 people in my graduating class. Very, very small school. I was talking to my mom's best friend. If you've been on the platform a long time, it's the woman I used to call Hawkeye. Every time I did something wrong, she was there. I'd be out at 4 o'clock in the morning. I sneak out. She's driving by. What the hell is she doing out at 4? She caught me for everything. But she's a nurse, and she works in the school system. And she said to me, in a school of 800 kids, there are dozens who claim to have DID. By the way, DID now comes in 2 varieties, fictive, right, or factive. Fictive literally means that the identities you have aren't based on real people. So one of your alter identities, right, could be Harry Potter. That's a fictive, right? And there are fictive people with DID according to these kids. Yeah, so you might have, the guy from Fast and Furious as one of your alters. And if you watch the videos, and I don't, but my daughter, when she was staying with me, was showing me these things. And it's horrifying. It would be like me talking right now and going, yeah. And then the new personality comes on. Hi, I'm a 6-year-old boy. My name is such and such. There are kids that leave class. Teachers will let them leave because currently the personality that's there, hello, Dawn. Currently that personality can't handle that class. There's one from the Are You Yitting Me file. And if it seems like I'm really far afield, I'm not. I'm not. The journal is the anti-phone, as opposed to letting someone you don't know steer you in the direction that you're going to go in life. You're going to take control of it. You're going to grab that journal and you're going to track your progress. You're going to write down the things that you're doing right. You're going to write down the things that you're doing wrong. Handmade Hazard, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I don't know what it is about seeing the pound, but I love that symbol. I really do. The whole British pound thing, I love that. Rapper, good to see you. Glad that you're here. That journal can save your life. It sure as hell saved mine. And it didn't just help me get sober. I got in shape. I got sober. I got right with God again. Right? My God, I used to buy by the gram. I literally just blew God off. I blew off my family. I blew off everything that was good in my life. It's why we say that the opposite of addiction is connection. And guess what? If you're addicted to food, the opposite of addiction is still connection. What do we do when we start feeling like we are obese or we don't click with the society's version of beautiful? We withdraw from society. And then we feel alone, and then we feel unloved. And what do? We do what makes us feel good. And that addiction drives us to eat more food. It's a horrific cycle, no different than blow, no different than heroin or crack or any other substance or habit. The only difference is that you can't live without food. But I'll tell you what, you can live with a lot less of it. Counting the calories things, you don't need to do that. In my opinion, you don't. But you need to keep track of what you eat and when you eat. And if you write that down in your journal, you don't even have to start any kind of diet or anything for the first week. Just tell that journal when you eat. And you know what's a great thing to do? Tell the journal why you eat. For real. I just went and ate 2 nutty bars. Right before that happened, so-and-so said this to me. I called home and they told me that my dad was struggling, that he wasn't remembering things as much. And I would go and crush a box of nutty bars. And it got to the point where I realized that I'm not eating because I'm hungry. I'm eating because I'm miserable. That's dangerous as hell, isn't it? But you're not going to know that if you just go through life allowing what happens to you during the day to not be investigated. If you don't keep track of the things that you're doing, you're not going to know why you do the things that you do. Way back in the day, there was a little device that they sold that looked like a beeper. You know, the little things we used to carry on our hips? And it was a device that was intended to help you quit smoking. And for the first 2 weeks, every time you had a cigarette, you'd hit the button and let it know you had a cigarette, right? And you didn't change any habit, just did what you did. At the start of the 3rd week, it would allow you to smoke the exact same number of cigarettes that you had had every other day, but it wouldn't let you smoke them at the same time. It would vary. So when the buzzer went off, you had to go smoke a cigarette. And it was amazing how much it disrupted life, because it wasn't about nicotine. It wasn't. It was about other things. For instance, right after you eat, right, you're going to go and have a cigarette. That was the thing. So if it didn't let you do that and it interrupted that pattern, all of a sudden they weren't all that much fun anymore. It was really it was an interesting case study. The problem was that the technology back then was so bad that the devices broke very easily. I think a lot of people broke them on purpose, but the devices were not well made. But it was a fascinating concept. The journal is a very similar concept, especially for someone wanting to lose weight. Not doing well explaining, I think. Best explained would be out of the kids group, was told ADHD, and a bunch of others in the friend group started saying they are too. This is super common, super common. One of the other things, this is a big TikTok thing. If somebody it is vogue right now. And if you think I'm making this up, I wish I was. But to say you have autism is vogue, right? Autism is something they have outed fakes. They have outed people that had millions of subscribers that pretended to have autism because it was popular, and they would work ticks in because I have no idea why. But for some reason, it's almost like a form of Munchausen's, right? In mass, there are all of these people that want these disorders. They're not adults, I promise you. There was a famous communist, right, who said, "Give me your children to the age of 6." Hey, I'm back in just under 10 minutes. Thank you for your patience. You guys are great. Can I get a 5 by anything? Well, I have my journal in hand and my pen. Sheesh, this isn't easy for me. I'm almost 71 and too much to write. Nonsense. Nonsense. Yay, I'm back. Well, I don't know how long we'll be here. We are in a developing country. And you know what? I promise you, folks, I would have blown an O-ring 4 months ago. Wouldn't I? You have no idea the cursing I would have done. It would have ruined my entire day. Sad but true. However, I'm not letting the little things get me. Last night, there were people in the chat that had just lost a loved one. That's a 10 on that scale of how much something should be allowed to affect us. There was another person that lost a fur baby. That's a 10, right? The internet going out on me, even if I have 50 people watching at the time, that's a 2. It really is. And I've been treating those things like 10s for so long. I was treating those things like 10s for so long that if something was happening and the camera was screwing up and somebody in the chat would joke about it, I would hate that person for 2 weeks. I'm not kidding. I really have let myself get far afield. However, guess what brought me back? A lot of love and prayers from a lot of good people and a journal. I mean it. If you're a jackass, the journal will tell you that. It's all about keeping things in perspective. You're darn right it is. And that 1 through 10 thing, I promise, I put everything on that. Everything. When things start going bad, and Johnny and I have a way of calling each other out. You know what I mean? As this was going bad, if I had started to become the jackass I was, Johnny would say something along the lines of, bro, is this a 10? Right? No one died. It's not a 10, right? So if food's not the problem, the answer is still journaling. If gambling isn't your problem, the journal is still going to be the answer to whatever that problem is. The next 30 days of journaling will change your life. And if it doesn't, come on back and tell me I'm an idiot. For real. Come on back and tell me I was wrong. This is stupid. I was planning on telling Q that, if you'd like to know the truth. I had every intention of telling him he was an idiot because I was really pissed. You think a lot of people left there. I do too, Caroline. I think a lot of people probably didn't. I don't blame them. You know what I mean? I don't. That was a really long time. I'm shocked that all of you stuck around. Means so much to me. My brother said the right one stayed. You know what? I'm sure a lot of great people left too. You know, that's about as long as I've ever been gone and then successfully come back. Not sure what happened. The weather, we are in that time of year where the weather can get a little dicey here. That, and I'm pretty sure that the person that we bought this from put that modem hookup thing on the wall in 1912. So we're in the process of getting that upgraded. A little bit different in this part of the world. You actually have to take a picture of it and then go to the place, show them the picture, tell them what you want the upgrade to do, and then someone has to come out and handle it. You can't just, in America, we just pick it up, bring it home, plug it in. Very, very easy. Doesn't work like that now. Sandy Wandy, good to see you. So whatever it is that you're trying to fix, these are the nuts and bolts. Start like that little device with the cigarette smoking, right? You don't have to make changes for the first couple of weeks. Eat the same way that you've been eating. Let's find out the baseline. Write down when you're eating, what you're eating, and how you feel at the time. Hey, Cindy B, write down how you feel because you're going to start to put together, right? If every time you get ready to sit down and eat and you're journaling, right? It's 12:30 and I was thinking about my ex, right? And I just crushed a bag of Doritos, right? Or I just, ate a pint of Ben & Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs or whatever. After a week of doing this and reading the journal, you're going to go, good God, every time I think about my ex, I eat. Every time I think about the breakup, I eat. So when you start feeling that come on in the second week and you start to think about your ex, you're going to go, maybe I'll go drink 16 ounces of water. Maybe I'll walk around. Maybe I'll go for a walk, right? We say to people who are addicted to drugs, when you feel that feeling that you got to use, change, right? All of the sensory input. You go outside, you go for a walk, you're looking at different things, you're smelling different things, you're hearing different things, the feeling on your body, all of your senses just got rewired. That does amazing things to keep you from using. It also does amazing things to keep you from eating or gambling or any other habit you're trying to break. But if you're not aware of what you're doing, there's no hope. My husband lost a lot of weight with a weight journal. It really works. You bet it does. I couldn't get off dope until I found out why I was using in the first place. I tried for decades, but when therapists and smart people would say to me, there's something that you're trying to take away, right? There's something that you're using to cover up. I would go, no. I loved the way it felt, and I kept doing it too long. And the next thing you know, I was a drug addict. There's nothing from my childhood. There's no big thing that I've got to find. Holy crap, was I wrong? I mean, wrong. Journaling led me to exactly what started me on dope. And once I was aware of what that was, every time I had that voice screaming in my head, feed me, I knew why it was yelling that. That's a game changer, whether you realize it or not. If you figure out why you eat, because you're not eating because you're hungry, right? If you, like me, right, I ballooned up to closing in on the 300-pound mark. I wasn't eating because I was hungry, right? I wasn't making a honey bun, right, with a chocolate bar and a nutty bar on top of it with peanut butter, microwaved, and then turned into like a taco every night before I went to sleep because I was hungry. I promise you that wasn't it. It wasn't. I was doing that because it was feeding something else in me. And it's very easy to trade one addiction for other. We talk about that all the time. If you trade drinking for overeating to the point where you become morbidly obese, that's not a good trade. In a perfect world, what we want to do is find out why we drank, because it will be the same reason, more than likely, the same reason why you eat. And I don't mean your 3 meals a day. I mean crushing a pint of Haagen-Dazs to feel better, right? To make whatever pain you got go away. Let's address the pain. It's a hell of a lot cheaper. It's a whole lot healthier. And it's a little bit more difficult, to be honest. But you'll be a better human being. You'll be a happier human being. And you know what? Therapists are great. But if you journal enough to find out what's wrong with you, when you can go sit down with a therapist and talk to them, they will get done in 3 sessions what took me decades. When I could open up and say, this is when I started doing drugs, and this is the reason that I started doing drugs. Here are the events that changed me as a child to the point where I didn't want to be me anymore. I hated me. The dope took that away, right? I hated me. Show you a honey bun. Well, picture what looks like bread, except it starts out almost like a swirl, right? But it's bread. It's about that thick, and there's about 1/4 of an inch of frosting on the top of it. Kind of like, what's the name of that terrible company that sells the things very similar to that? They're in all of the airports. I can't think of the name of it, but they're like 800 calories or something. Cinnabon. Cinnabon is very much like a honey bun. Just, I don't know if you've ever seen Cinnabon, but ants are the worst. They seem to come out more when stress is past the point of bearable. And by ants, we're talking about automatic negative thoughts. Cindy, I'm so glad you brought this up. So glad you brought this up. Automatic negative thoughts are what destroys addicts, right? It's that little voice in your head that you want to quiet. Automatic negative thoughts that tell you you're not good enough. They tell you that you're fat. They tell you that you're ugly. They tell you that you're worthless. They tell you that you're stupid, that mom loved so-and-so more than you, loved your sister more, loved your brother more. It tells you that your wife doesn't love you or that she's cheating on you. It tells you all of these things. And it's just that, how do you get rid of ants? Well, they're automatic. They're negative, right? So we need to do something that isn't automatic. And we have to do something that's positive. So we have to literally input positive thoughts. That is why sitting in front of a mirror and going, you're not a loser. You're not a piece of crap. I honestly had to do daily affirmations in front of a mirror every morning, and I looked like Stuart Smalley from Saturday Night Live. I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, and doggone it, people like me. And I felt so dumb doing it. But you know what? I had spent 40 years saying, you're stupid. You're a loser. You're a thief. You're a dirtbag. These are I told myself that so often. I'm glad you're here, Lisa Trimble. I'm with Kristen Melinda on this one. I really am. I'm glad that you're here. In Scotland, that's a Chelsea bun. Oh, okay. Well, I'm imagining it's just as bad. You know what, Lisa Trimble? Tears are the telescopes through which we view God. I've done more crying in the last month than I have in my entire life. I promise. And it's not been bad. And usually I'm not alone. Right? I think that when we first got to Salinas, I don't think Johnny made a video for the first week that he wasn't crying in. Am I wrong? No. He was on a roll, man. Like, I remember him getting to the end of one of the videos, and I was like, holy Lord, you just got through an entire video without, come on now, focus. I don't know why that doesn't want to. My battery is running low. Johnny Scoville, am I not plugged in, bud? You know what? I sure thought I was. Maybe this one doesn't work, huh? Nope, it doesn't. All right, people, my battery is going to die. I have a problem with this. I'll have to work on it between now and tonight. Between now and the next time that I see you, you got to do me a favor. You got to put a little love in your heart, right? And write in that journal, right? Write down and start doing everything that you're doing. Write down what's happening during the day and why. I promise this is the start of incredible things. All right? I love you guys. I will see you tonight at 7:05 Pacific time. Between now and then, put a little love in your heart. I am Tommy Scoville. See you on the next one. God bless.
I'll go for a second.